This episode of Gabba Gabba Hunt Talks is sponsored by Hobo Wolfman Records. Hobo Wolfman Records is home to local bands The Fill-Ins, The Body Bags, and Home for the Day. But check out all the stuff they have on their webpage, including some kick-ass new hats and shirts. Check them out at hobowolfmanrecords.com. You are now listening to the Gabba Gabba Hunt Talks podcast, where we bring you conversations with people connected to the Carolinas underground music scene. Your host, Mike Phillips of Van Huskins. Hey. What's up? Can you hear me?
Can't hear you, I don't think. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, I know what the problem is. Talk now.
Hey.
There we go. It was my fault.
Okay.
It was actually a knob on my little recording deal.
Yeah.
That's what I'm monitoring through.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know. I thought it could have been on my end. Because I don't record my audio through, or what you're hearing me through the webcam.
Yeah.
And when it first went, when it looked like you couldn't hear me, I'm like, oh shit, I didn't test it out to make sure it looked like it was working on my end.
It was. Man, there's a knob on these things, and it's like a blend knob between input and playback.
Yeah.
And when I use it for something like this, instead of it being like the playback from a recording, like the tracks you've already laid down, it's the audio from the other person.
Yeah.
Which is really useful because I can make my audio and yours suitable for me, the volume levels. But I had it all the way on the side of me because earlier I was just sitting here listening to what all this microphone would pick up because it's kind of sensitive.
Yeah, it's like this one right here. I turned my ceiling fans. One of them I had to turn off, and the other one I turned all the way down. I got to have some circulation in here, but it just picks up everything. And I can clean some of it up with noise reduction, but the less I have to do that, the better my audio is.
Yeah. So
I can do that on both tracks, and I usually do it once, regardless. But if I have to do any more than that, like when I did on that Flight Risk episode, I had to run it so many times trying to get that cricket noise down because the way I had the microphone set up, and this is what I was talking about, how I kind of want to talk a little bit about how I do the podcast on here. And I'm going to go ahead and use some of this. I won't do the introduction yet, as usual. But so the way I had the microphone set up, we did that one around a campfire. And I just set the microphones up. They were sitting on the ground, just pointing in that direction. Those little stands I've got there, they're tiny. And just they were pointed in general direction, and each one pointed at two people, and one pointed at me. So, and of course, different people talked at different volumes. And so, like, Jason was pretty easy to pick up. He was loud. Joey is a little quieter. Travis was really quiet because he hadn't been drinking. He was sober that night. And Brian's got one of those deep voices that the microphone just struggles to pick up sometimes, especially at a distance. So I had to crank him way up, and me too sometimes. And whenever I'd have to crank that up, of course, the cricket noise went up. And so by the time I got to the end of it, I kind of figured out a really cool way to do it that actually worked really well and didn't degrade my audio too much. But, and I can't remember, I think it was on the Jeff Clayton episode, I fucked with mine so much that my audio didn't sound that great. I can't remember if that was the one or not.
Oh, yeah.
But it's a learning process. And so I figured out better ways to deal with it, but I've still learned that maybe I need to invest in some big stands, some tall stands to take with me to things like that so I can at least get them closer to everybody.
Yeah, that's what I got a boom stand right now. I don't know if you can see it at all, but the microphone's just like right here.
Yeah, that's like mine. I've got this boom stand that I attach to my desk, and I can move it in and out and stuff. But I set it up like this and then crank it up to where it picks me up so I don't have to be right up on it.
Yeah, I'm really sibilant, so I got two popper stoppers. One that's actually made out of like thick t-shirt material. I just took the hoop and covered it in that over the old foam. Then I've got like a pencil that's rubber banded to the front of the microphone.
Yeah.
It just covers up the center of the capsule a little bit. It helps deal with that too.
Okay, yeah.
But I found I make a lot of S sibilants and stuff. Just T sounds is like,
yeah.
So especially with singing. So I have to do a lot to guard against that. Otherwise, I'm trying to use a de-esser and always overdoing it and ruining the overall sound of the vocals,
Yeah.
It kind of dulls them.
Yeah. But, speaking to that, though, it's probably going to be a while before I do another one in person anyway. So the next one I do in person will probably be outdoors, so I have to think about that a little bit. But the one we were doing right now, and I'm talking to John Bowman of Warboys and a lot of other bands, but Warboys and currently working on some solo stuff. But we were supposed to do this one in person today. Despite COVID, I've been every now and then doing one in person, either somewhere else or here at my house. And just being careful about it. And anytime there's been a potential scare, we've rescheduled them. So I've had another one at work again this time. And so we decided to move this one to Skype. And I'm still dealing with just a little bit of a headache. And it sucks. Because other than that, I feel fine. Except for a couple of little things. But I think it's all in my head. The headache, though, worries me. Because I do. And I used to get headaches real bad. I used to get migraines all the time. Now I rarely get them. But every now and then I do. And usually if I get a headache, it's because I drank too much the night before or something. And I didn't really drink that much last night. So I'm not attributing it to that. And it's just kind of got me a little bit worried because that is one of those symptoms, one of those early symptoms. But I can still smell. I can still taste. I feel fine. Again, like I said, every now and then I feel like I'm maybe a little bit hot or maybe a little bit chilly. And I'm like, man, that's just in your head. That's because of the temperature it is in the house right now.
Man, it really could. Everything down to the headache could be just the stress of knowing you were exposed. That's when I thought I'd been exposed. I had a headache too. I think I was just worrying about it and stressing, because especially because I was frustrated. It's like your case. It wasn't no fault of my own. Somebody else being reckless endangered me. So I was freaking out. Like I worked this hard to keep myself safe this long, and somebody else that I don't even know has caused a problem, by not being honest and not being careful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it stressed me out. I found myself with a headache and stuff too, and I got lucky I didn't have it, But.
Yeah. And I guess it's because, the other two times that this has happened, both at work, I hardly worked around the people. Maybe an hour. Maybe I did share a shift, but, we did two different jobs, so I was hardly around them. But this time it was like, not only did I work with the dude on Monday night, but like I said, his girlfriend and his girlfriend's cousin both live in the same house. And at least one or both of them has worked every day this week. And I got thinking about it this morning too. He worked again on Wednesday after he had tested but hadn't got his results back. So I'm like, I guess it's just the fact that I was potentially exposed every day this week. Now they haven't, the girlfriend actually tested the same day he did and tested negative. But my manager told her last night, don't come to work, go get another test. Because, they live together.
And they say if you take a test too early, it might not have built up in your system enough to show. And also, supposedly them rapid tests sacrifice some accuracy as well. Like, if it's one of the rapid tests, it's going to, you could get a false negative.
Well, I know both times I've gotten mine, and I've got one scheduled for tomorrow, I went to CVS. Go through the drive-thru. You do it all yourself. They tell you how to do it, which I like that. It's uncomfortable, but you don't have to stick it like way back in there. But it's taken like 2 to 3 days, or about 3 days to get my results. And he got his on Monday, but didn't get his results till yesterday. But I've heard like people that go to the health department, it usually takes longer. But yeah, I don't know. There are some of those rapid test sites around where you can get the results that day. I kind of wanted to try to find one of those for this time, but I decided I'd rather just go ahead and do what I've done before.
Yeah, I think you should. I think you get one of the slower ones. That means more time you got to stay by yourself and not know, but it sucked to get an inaccurate result and then go about your business and then it get back, cause a lot of problems.
And it's like messed everything up because like we hadn't had to have band practice in a couple of weeks. We won't get to have it this week. Maybe. If I get my result by Wednesday and we're off Thursday, I might get to do band practice. But, fingers crossed. But the past 2 weekends, I'm like, even today, I was supposed to be helping my parents bring Christmas decorations down out of the attic. That's been put on hold again. So, it's just not worth the risk. My mom really wants to decorate for Christmas, but it's not worth the risk for me to potentially expose them just to get those decorations down out of the attic.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are coming to terms with the fact that they're not going to be doing much for a little while. Like, I've been trying to go to Statesville and work with Brian on new songs and stuff like that, but, out of a bunch of weeks, it was only safe to go once.
Mm-hmm.
And every other time it seemed like there's been some scare or something, you know, somebody near one of us or, you know, with one of us or something. And I think we've kind of just almost been like, well, we'll just wait a little while till the stuff dies down. It's bad right now. Let's just not worry about getting together. Even if neither of us have a potential contact or, you know, scare or anything, like, and that's fine with me. I can be patient. I'd rather be patient and be safe than be in a rush to do stuff and then get infected or something.
Yeah.
Or give it to somebody. You know, that's my worst fear, is giving it to somebody. That's worse than me getting sick. I don't want to give it to anybody, you know?
Yeah, me too. That's been my whole thing this whole time is, you know, I don't want to get sick myself. And I hope, I've always had pretty strong immune system. And I know we don't have an immunity to this. But, you know, certain people can fight it off better than others. I mean, it's just the way it is. So I'm hoping that even if I do get it, whether it's now or whether it's later, that my body takes care of it. But if I gave it to my parents, like, I mean, my dad said earlier, you know, now we've been potentially exposed again. I was like, yeah, but there's only been a couple of days this week that I wasn't around them, that I was even around them, because we had already been taking precautions because of last week. You know, once I got my result for that, which was just the other day, I still haven't been around them much because I've been real conscious of it this whole time. Like, I haven't hugged my parents in I don't know how long. You know, it's just we don't get that close to each other because I know every day at work I'm potentially exposed.
Yeah.
But you know, they've still got to worry about it a little bit more now because, of course, I'm worried about it more now because of the situation. This time is different than the past couple of times.
Dude, I have to be honest. I hate we're even having to talk about it. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to ignore right now.
Yeah.
It's really like at the worst stage of it.
I do too, but at the same time, you know, for posterity's sake, I like having it on the podcast, and it's one of those things that. What have you been doing lately? You can't talk about these shows you've been going to or anything like that. You've not been doing anything. What we're going to talk about? We're going to talk about COVID. That's all everybody's been doing. It's either that or what you want to talk about the election.
Yeah, you're right, man. I mean, that's what I was saying. It's like it's so unpleasant, but it's so unavoidable.
Yeah, fuck 2020, man.
Man, I've been saying it's my fault because right around New Year's, I was like, 2019 sucked, and I was thinking what sucked about it for me. You know, it was a sucky year. I didn't get to do a lot with my band because of Jordan's health declining and some other stuff, you know, and I was pissed about it, you know, and all that. And a lot of other things were tough, and I was like, oh, 2020 is going to be better. And they couldn't get no, you know, like 2019 sucked. Well, I'm looking forward to 2020, and I was all optimistic, and then look what happened. Just
yeah, I think everybody's kind of in that boat, though. I think everybody thought, oh, 2020 is going to be great. I thought 2020 was going to be a great year. I started this, and I was like, oh, this is going to be great. And especially, like, I've talked about this before, the zine. I was, like, super excited about that part of it. And then this happened, and now I just cannot get this next one finished. But that's happening soon. And I think I'm going to do it a little differently this time. But I won't really talk much about that right now. Let's talk about, though, because I said what we got to talk about is COVID and the election. But you've been putting out some new music lately. And it's not Warboys stuff. It's Prehistoric Jon stuff. Solo deal. And man, I was going to say, I was actually about to make the transition to this topic too by saying
you know, I'm making some music right now, and I hope that when I look back on this time, the trouble involved with the pandemic, that memory kind of fades a bit, and what sticks out to me is these songs I've been working on and things. You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to make the best of a bad situation, you know, and it does give me opportunity to do something that I've wanted to do for a long time, which is just do some music on my own, you know, just where I run the whole show and just exercise. It's like, it's not so much about like the same thing a band is, where you got, you know, some kind of goals or something. This one's just like an exercise in making music and keeping my skills sharper, even sharpen them even more, you know, throughout this period of not being able to interact with other people the way I'd like to. So like, I guess it's the perfect time. Just turn inward for a while and, you know, spend some time developing my skills more, or, you know, just also getting ideas out, getting the satisfaction of accomplishing things that's been on the shelf forever and doesn't fit into any project you ever had before. Yeah. So I'm really lamenting the fact that my band isn't going, and that situation sucks, you know, right now. It's not over with, of course. It's going to be back when the time's right. Whenever the larger picture, everything clears up, and some other things, you know. Warboys will be back doing it again, but, you know, in the meantime, it gives me something to do so I don't go crazy, because I've got to have some kind of goals, like some musical goals or something. That's just what I do, you know, or I'm not going to be happy. I've like spent a few periods in my life where I quit for a couple years messing with music too much. I never quit altogether, but just didn't have a personal project of my own, you know, but I pretty much always end up having to come back, you know, I have to get more involved after a while. And
well, it's like me. I think, you know, hopefully when this is all said and done, I won't think so much about the pandemic itself either. It'll be more of, you know, that was when I got Gabba Gabba going really good. Because, you know, I said that this kind of happened at a terrible time because I thought 2020 was going to be a great year for me. This actually has worked in the advantage of the podcast, I think, in certain ways. It's limited the way I can promote it because I can't promote it in person. But man, it's come at the right time for a lot of people to be able to take time to listen to this. So I do appreciate that part of it, but I'm ready for it to be over with.
Man, I think it's your podcast is kind of a unifying factor in the way that shows were when we were still able to do them, you know. Now at least have, you know, a good podcast to listen to that reminds you the scene ain't gone nowhere. Just because we ain't got no shows or anything right now doesn't mean that everything's over with or gone for good or anything like that. It's, you know, everything's still endures, just waiting out a rough spot.
And these are important stories, and it's a good time to tell them, I think. So I think it was perfect timing for me in certain respects. But so let's get back to you, though. Prehistoric Jon, you've released stuff under that name before. This is not like something brand new, or you've recorded stuff under that name. I don't know. I'd say released. It's on Reverb Nation, I believe. There's some songs.
I think just Bandcamp maybe, and then I don't know. You might know better than me at this time. I don't exactly remember what I did.
It seems like the first ones I found. It seems like the first ones I found may have been Reverb Nation, but I might be wrong about that. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd say the first thing I did, or the first moves I made as like a little solo act or whatever, was maybe 12, 13 years ago or something. You know, I started having, or even longer, maybe as long as 14 years ago or so. I started having ideas because in SFTM, that was kind of like my band and Jordan's band, and even the other guy, Chris, that was in the band. I mean, it was like our thing together. You know, we did, but I wrote a lot of the songs, and Jordan helped. Chris helped, and that was kind of my thing. But then after that, you know, I got into a period of time where I was in other people's bands a lot. You know what I mean? Which is fine, and I enjoyed that a lot. But I still felt like I didn't need to stop with the songwriting and things like that that I was doing in my previous band. And that's just kind of how this little avenue got hatched. Because when you're in a band that somebody else established before you come along, like Self-Made Monsters was, or Anti-Scene was. You know, when you write a song or submit something to those bands, it's got to be in the vein of what they do. You know, and it's got to fit. And if you come from outside of that earlier, it's like you still have ideas and stuff from that other, all those other musical experiences, you know, and influenced by those other experiences. So you end up with a back catalog of stuff. So I started getting the idea first about doing something on my own when I was in Self-Made Monsters.
Not far away.
And it was probably around the time I went on that tour with Wednesday 13 opening for Alice Cooper.
Mm-hmm.
Eddie and Wednesday were listening to Sammy Sirius from the band The Zeros, not the punk band The Zeros, but the kind of glam rocky band from L.A., The Zeros. They were like these dudes, these really like up to the knee Chuck Taylor shoes and big purple hair.
Yeah.
Their singer Sammy Sirius had a self-produced solo CD. Like it seemed really like something. Didn't seem like something some guy had been on a big label and had a big band like that. You know, it was like homemade looking album. You know, I think it was on a CDR maybe even too. It's called Sammy Sirius, Nuns in Prison.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure we listened to that in the van on that tour, and that me and Eddie kept listening to it afterwards. Eddie ended up with that CD. It was something we would listen to sometimes getting ready to practice Self-Made Monsters. But that CD like started giving me the idea because it was really simple songs. I felt like that CD was within the scope of my musical skills at the time. You know, even though that guy's probably a lot more talented, he just really kept it simple.
Yeah.
All the songs were short, they were catchy, they were kind of punky, you know, but had the good pop hooks and stuff. So I got this idea I wanted to do some songs, you know, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where the idea was hatched. And I started writing some songs and doing it just by myself with nobody else. I don't think a lot of them were that good. So a lot of them didn't happen. Then I had a hard time getting them to happen. And by this time, this is a period of time where Jordan wasn't playing in a band regularly or anything. But I talked to him and he agreed to do the drums for it. But his time was really limited and mine was too.
Yeah.
So a couple times we got together and just blasted some stuff out, you know, and even if we tried multiple songs, maybe something to finish one or two songs would be there, you know.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it started. I think the earliest songs was that one, I'm Not the One, that I told you I hated when you played it. Then I think I deleted it offline.
Yeah.
It just, I don't know.
I've still got it.
It seemed good at the time. It's fine. It seemed good at the time, and I liked it at the time, but I don't think it holds up. It's just not, I don't like it, you know. So
I won't play that one later.
I kind of Soviet Russia'd that one out of existence a little bit, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
and I respect that. If I'd have known that beforehand, I wouldn't have played it. But I wasn't going to stop in the middle of it and go, well, John said this one sucks. So.
Oh, man, it's fine. You can play it again if you really want to. It doesn't really bother me. I just didn't want it on my... I don't want people listening to my Bandcamp. I don't want them to hear like one of the worst songs of the whole project. You know, that maybe should just reside in demo land, you know. But yeah, there was that song. And then I think I released that online somehow. And then QCV was on the first Mystery School compilation.
Yeah.
So I think that's the two that made it out there. And then some of the other songs, even if me and Jordan had recordings, and they end up being part of other bands. Me and him did Somebody Wants to Kill Me, and I have that version up that me and Jordan did on the Prehistoric Jon Bandcamp. But then we did that one in Warboys.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I like the way we played it in Warboys, but I think I messed the recording up.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go into details of how I did, but I wasn't on top of my game on that recording, so I don't know, I tend to not like that recording so much, but I like the song, and I kind of want to play it again. Get back to doing it again, maybe. And a few people told me they really like that song. I was like, well, I was kind of down on that one. So, you know, when all this COVID stuff hit and all that, I kind of let that song stay on the Prehistoric Jon page. Like, people like that song. They'd be interested in an alternate version, too.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. So now they're both out there to be heard. All right, so a couple other songs end up part of other things. There's a song we did in Anti-Scene called Air of Opportunity.
Yeah.
Me and Jordan did that first, and that's never seen the light of day. And I think we jammed on that the first time I did a Warboys practice. It was like the first time I ever got together with those guys before we had a band name or anything like that. There was a few songs. That song, Not In Today, was not really considered a part of that. That was done way before. That was done probably like right after Jordan joined Dead Kings.
Yeah.
Probably 2004 or 5 or something, you know. I just resurrected that one because I thought it was time for it to be heard, and a few people knew about that one. I don't think I ever let that one go out on the internet or anything, or put it out in any way, but some people knew it and told me for years it was good and put it out there, you know, so I finally did. And I got a good response to it. I was happy about that. And it's funny here myself, you know, releasing a song you did like 15, 16 years ago or something like that. It's a pretty strange thing, pretty strange experience, especially everybody liking it like that.
Yeah.
Living in the dark, I spend so much time alone. I found that life is hard when you're on your own. But I found the courage to get out, step back into light. Can remember a time when things were ever so bright, and there's no fun in keeping out of the sun. I think of you and my clouds go away. When you're near, the summer's always here. Turn my night into day.
Yeah, I mean, that's about the extent of it. I just had these ideas I would do this solo project, and I worked on it over the years, but I was never ever really able to bring a lot of it to fruition, you know. But some of those songs ended up being in other bands, like Who Do You Think You're Fooling was a Warboys song.
Mm-hmm.
That was originally one of those songs. So some of the ones that were also good. Kill For You as a Warboys song was one of those. A lot of the ones that were actually pretty good, they ended up being better in other projects.
Yeah.
You know, since the COVID thing hit, like now it's like necessity. I need to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Getting together with people is not much of an option for a while now, and it's going to be a while. So I had to do something. I just decided to start doing some of these songs on my own, because otherwise I knew I'd get rusty and stuff. When we first started Warboys, I couldn't believe they all wanted to play with me. I gotten so rusty. I was so bad at guitar. It was awful. It took a while, and singing I was terrible. You know, it took a while to get at all comfortable with it. You know. Not that any of it's ever really that easy for me, but you know, I really had to sharpen up, and that's what I'm trying to do now, is just be even more sharp than ever, really, through writing. Because now I do have the luxury of changing something a million times if it ain't right, and working on it, and going over and over. And that's what I really did on the single that I'm about to release, Demiurge.
Yeah,
I'm telling all kinds of things out of order. I'm totally so unorganized. That's really my main goal of this thing, try to stay sharp, and also not have anybody forget about me while we can't do shows and stuff. Stay on the radar in some way, you know. Yeah.
Even though you took yourself off the radar for just a little bit, but you're back on it, so.
Well, I wasn't totally off. I was just off Facebook. I hate Facebook. I just hate it. Brings out the worst in people, including me sometimes on there. You get really pissed off and go on a little rant thinking you're going to get some sympathy, you know.
Yeah, I went through a little phase of that, and then I backed away from it because, while I feel like being quiet is not the right thing to do, like, I started to feel like it didn't matter what I said. It's like preaching to the choir, because the people that want to hear it already understand it. And the people who think differently, no matter what I say, it's not going to change their minds.
Yeah.
But I feel like it was important there for a little bit for me to kind of put it out there and let people know where I stand, just in case people have questions. I kept it separately from the Gabba Gabba, but of course people can make the connection, and they can, you know, if they decide they want to stop listening because of it, that's fine. But I also felt like it helped me weed some people out, and that was a good thing. Like, I just had people on my friends list that didn't need to be there. And if I never hear from them, but all of a sudden they want to argue some stupid bullshit on one of my posts, then I know I don't need them as a friend anymore. So,
yeah, man, for years leading up to current events, the pandemic and this presidency and stuff, I was just like, I'm just going to stay quiet. Like, nobody cares, and people don't want to hear, anybody's opinion about any of this stuff, and everybody's got one. It don't matter. You're just wasting energy and time addressing it all. But because of some things that went down and people's attitudes and all that stuff, I really did want to clearly be identified as somebody that's, trying not to contribute to any problems that are going on instead of being a part of one. You know what I mean? I just really want to make it clear what I stood too. I think so. I started ranting and raving sometimes on there, but then I get too passionate, take it too far. And then You're right, and you know, some jackass is always going to come along, and then like talking to them is like talking to like the most stubborn thing in the world, like a robot program to never understand what the hell you're saying.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like talking to a child, really.
I just got pissed. And I was like, man, I'm gonna quit. You know, I'm just gonna quit being on this stupid shit. I mean, I stayed on Instagram. You know, and everybody's like, well, Instagram's all about Facebook. I'm like, yeah, but I can be on there and maintain some sanity. Like, I get on there and I see like all kinds of artwork and music and stuff. You know, and sometimes there's some political comments and stuff on there, but it's not like. It's just like if you want to see them political fights, you kind of have to look for them on there. Like on Facebook, you can't escape stupid shit.
Yeah.
It's always somebody's bullshit ass opinion, you know. And like, even like if you have to see too much of stuff you agree with, you're just like, all right, already, I know, like I get it. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
I just Facebook's so old, so like I don't know. Right now, like I'm just. I put it back on there because I notice like people are way more apt to listen to my music. It's just the age group of people I'm friends with, the age group I am in, the age group of people that like music like I like and like I make. You know, it's like they're on Facebook. That's the way you're going. That's the way you're going to get your message out to them. You got to be on Facebook.
Unfortunately, right now,
I got back on it, but I'm making it a point. Like if it ain't about your music, don't post it.
Yeah.
You know, if you're not supporting somebody else's music, don't like or comment or nothing. I'm trying to follow that rule, you know. Sometimes it's impossible, you know, but
hey, whatever works to make it more pleasurable for you or a better experience for you, that's what you should do. And I've done the same. I don't. There's been a couple of times here recently where I've wanted to post something more political, and I've just been like, nah, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm done.
Man, I like Instagram better because I feel like every post is like a little bit of a piece of art or something. You know, you got to have a good picture or something, you know, no matter what it is, like an object you want people to see or yourself, whatever, you know, you actually take the time and think about it. It's not like you just slap everything up like you on Facebook, slap every thought up on Facebook.
Yeah.
You know, on Instagram, I know that other people use it in different ways on there. I just feel more paced out. I ain't putting nothing on there unless I got something worth sharing. And it's going to be some kind of art thing or music thing, you know?
Yeah. Most of what I don't do Instagram a whole lot, but most of what I do is either promoting this stuff. Well, whenever we could go see shows, I was always posting whatever bands I was seeing. But it's either that or I did post a couple of political things on there at one point, but it's for a reason. Because what I was going to say is sometimes I do some coded things on there for certain people. Not anybody you know or anything. But so every now and then I put some stuff up that some people might be like, why is he posting that? Well, it's aimed specifically at somebody. So I use it for coding things as well.
Yeah, I'm all about, you know, being open about what you think is right. It's just that so many people are doing that and what they think is right is so fucking wrong. You know, it's just like, I mean, Instagram too, I met a lot of cool people on Instagram from all over the world. I just like that about it, you know. Facebook's going to make you in touch with people you know already, kind of, or in your community or in your group of friends, you know, no matter how much that group of friends sprawls out. 'Cause mine sprawls out really huge, you know, and I think a lot of people's do. But, I don't know, Instagram just seems like opportunities to make new connections all the time, you know. And I mean, that's led to really good artwork on some of my records, you know, some of the people I've met on there that hooked me up and did amazing artwork for the most reasonable prices and stuff, you know, and then just other friends to talk to and send stuff to. And
I know we talked about that, I think, on when you released Fire in the Void, Warboys song. We talked about that. I think that's who you got your artwork from, somebody that you found on Instagram. But you still do that with Prehistoric Jon too, right?
No, well, I hadn't done that with any of that artwork. The artwork for Menhir, that was from a site where people upload their photos and they say you can use them, like do whatever you want with them.
Okay, yeah.
And if you do, how about you give me a tip? You know what I mean? So I found that artwork of that mountain, you know, and then it already had that cool halo on it.
Yeah.
The art, like whoever took the picture put that on there, and I saw it and I was like, man, that's perfect for what I'm doing. And so I downloaded it and sent them some money.
Yeah.
And I didn't rip them off because they said I could do it for free, you know. But I didn't have to spend a fortune either. You know what I mean? I gave them like a fair share of money on it, you know, just because I was so appreciative to find something like it. And it's already like they're like, here, please. I'd love for somebody to do something with it, you know. So
yeah,
I forget that artist's name, but also credit him, you know, on the credits. And with the new song I'm about to release, Demiurge, that artwork I saw that in a picture from a book that was being sold by an art gallery that I follow out in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And it was like some really old art that's now public domain, so I knew I could use it.
Yeah.
Just like when I seen the image, I was just like, God, that's perfect for my song. It's like, that's exactly like, it just fits. It's just like, it couldn't get any better. So, yeah, I mean, I get ideas on there because there's so many artists are on there. I get ideas for things, like visual ideas for album art and things. And I think I learned too watching that stuff. I actually learned a little more about art. I've had some art education, not so much in the creation of art. I mean, I had art in school growing up, in high school and all that, but like in college, it was like art appreciation courses and things like that I took. And so, I mean, I'm not the greatest visual artist, but I know, like, I just kind of have a sense for some of it, when things are right or when they're wrong, even though I'm not so good at making things, but it's worked with the making album covers. I feel pretty comfortable doing that. If I've got material to work with, I feel like I can make a nice album cover now, which I used to couldn't do. I used to always have to rely on Jordan.
Yeah.
You know, he can't always help me now. Sometimes he has vision trouble. And you can't really do that stuff. And it comes and goes. So sometimes he's like, yeah, I'm good, let's do something. Sometimes he can't do it,
That's the good thing with our band is like, so I've always loved art. That was my favorite subject in school. I've never been like, if I take my time, I can do something really well, like hand-drawn, painting stuff and things like that. But I always just wanted to make stuff that was more fun. So I don't always take my time. And so my stuff turns out to be a little bit more cartoony. But Eric is excellent with drawing stuff. And he can do cartoony stuff. He can do realistic-looking stuff. He can do whatever he wants to, really. But then I've got the manipulating images and doing stuff with Photoshop. That's where I really come in. Because I've got more of a visual style that I can translate better in that medium rather than trying to draw stuff. So with our band, that's the easy part is coming up with images. That's why there's been times when like we would change our profile image like 2 or 3 times a week to something different that we created. And it's been a while now. So that's why the other night I was just like, man, we hadn't done anything for the band in a while. I've been focused on the podcast. So I made that one logo I threw up for our cover photo on Facebook.
Now, I like those ones that look like the 90s rap album covers.
Oh, yeah.
Like Johnny Five and a bunch of money.
Yeah. That one that I've got as my cover photo right now with the Dobermans on it, that was the first one I did. I was so proud of that thing. And then I was like, oh, man, I can take this to the next level. I've got some really stupid ones. Ones with like a bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken and clowns and bouncing houses and shit. And but that was fun. I'd like to do another one. I'd really like to do one where I get pictures of us and put us in like the No Limit album, No Limit Records album cover with like stacks of money around us and maybe one of us sitting on a throne. And I even thought about like with Ben having a alligator on a chain like it was his dog or something. I got ideas, but I did that. I'll do that with my artwork too. Is I'll get an idea and I'll do several things in that style, and then I'll get bored with it and move on to something else.
I feel pretty scatterbrained now talking about the Prehistoric Jon thing because it is like the activity was always just as sporadic as it could be over a long period of time, and it's weird because it just seems like I've been doing it no time now. It really has only been a matter of weeks.
Yeah.
Menhir was the comeback. Like, here I am doing a single. Like, I recorded this. This is the first new recorded thing in a long time.
Yeah.
Climbing on the mountainside, the most peculiar stone did catch my eye, covered in weathered images and lines, transmitting an overwhelming sense of joy and love in life.
Night and Day I released, like, I can't remember even which one I released first now. Those was within a week or two of each other.
Yeah.
That was kind of the comeback. And that's only been like August. It's
Yeah, been that
November
long ago. Yeah. Even though it seems like you've been working on this new one for a while, it really hasn't been that long.
I worked on it longer than Menhir.
Yeah.
Man, the Demiurge, I wrote it, but it in getting it the way it is now, like it steered me more than I steered it. Like I had a lot of failures along the way. Like the way I pictured things in my head is not the way that they played out in real life. So I had to listen and adjust and say, well, that doesn't work. What am I going to do now? And so on and so forth. So like what I've ended up with now is like, it wasn't planned to be like that from the start totally. You know, it's just a lot of happy accidents along the way and a lot of trial and error with that one. But still, it's only 3 months since the last song. And that might seem like a lot for a song, but when you're doing it all by yourself, you know, between your work schedule and your family and everything, and you don't have a lot of time, you know, getting a song done in a matter of, you know, 6 weeks or so, or more, you know, this time it was more for sure, but Menhir was probably 6 weeks or less, you know.
Yeah.
And then this one's taking a little bit longer, but also I've kind of been done for a week or two for the most part now, except for just some little mix adjustments, but it's ready to go now. It's going to be out just by the time people listen to this. So.
Yeah.
Well, man, that's the other thing I was going to say when we were talking about how everything slowed everything down, but it's also gave new opportunities. Like, you know, you got the podcast thing nailed down during this time. Like, whenever, you know, things are more or less back to normal and everybody's on their own schedule, busy doing things, like, you know how to set up and do it and get it done. You know, It's like there's no trial and error anymore, you know, unless you want to try to, you know, improve upon some aspect of it, you know, and you got it nailed down, man.
Yeah. It's been good. I mean, I've learned a lot about, like, even just using editing software. That's been kind of fun. And so my next thing I want to do is try to tackle, like, making actual music with it.
Yeah. Man, I'm used to talking to you on the phone and stuff to where when we do these, I almost forget it's like for a show, you know, and I find myself not trying especially hard to be interested, you know, or feeling like I'm falling short from that, but... Man, I was going to talk about this song, though, because I just find it's interesting. I think people have questions about it. So far, you know, nobody's heard of it except some of my closest friends and my wife and whoever else I've just talked about it, you know, gets the scoop early because they can't help but get it because I ain't going to shut up about it. But so the song is called the Demiurge.
Mm-hmm.
It's a term I had heard a couple times before. I used to really be into studying religion and especially things pertaining to Christianity because, as I've talked about before, I think on the podcast and you know, in some of my songs, you know, I came from a kind of religious background.
Yeah.
You know, growing up, going to church every time the doors were open and stuff. You know, like most people, I got older and I kind of moved away from that, but there was a time where I was still really interested, you know, because I started to realize that I learned a lot when I was a kid and that a lot of people would like come off to me with some holier than thou attitude, and then I would hear, even as they were on my ass, that they had all these wild inaccuracies in the things they were telling me and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, that's not what it says at all, or that's not what it's about at all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wasn't just like a difference in denomination type thing. It was just like somebody that was kind of like not all that learned in it, but very passionate about it, you know, going off.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, it actually made me more interested. So that's what it led me to like read the entire Bible all the way through and read all these other secondary documents and stuff, books, you know, about it and stuff, like scholarly writings and all that, you know, and, you know, analysis and all that. So it wasn't only like I'm reading it literally for myself, but also like using supplemental things to understand what it means too and stuff, and not and like I say, scholarly things, not things from like religious publishers, like, you know what I mean?
Not propaganda.
yeah. So like strictly academic stuff and stuff based on a lot of archaeological books and all. And I learned a lot about that, and a lot about world history in general. And I'd been interested in history already, you know.
Yeah.
But in the course of doing all that study, I got to where I didn't believe in any of it anymore. You know, I mean, like I believe in some of the historical aspects. You know what I mean? Like a lot of the stuff that's recorded in the Bible reflects true historic events and so on and so forth. But I just don't it's not for me in terms of the spiritual side. I just don't. I just kind of reading through it just shattered my faith because there were too many buts and whats and this and this doesn't make sense and contradictions and all that. And then a lot of the other knowledge I have of history, you know, a lot of crimes committed in the name of, you know, Christianity, so it just soured it to me, you know. But there's this like in that whole realm of studying, I don't know what if you want to call it like theology in general or something like that, but there's like this like conflict between the actions of God in the Old Testament and then the teachings of Jesus in the New Testament. Like people know that, like people notice. It's not a secret or a mystery, but there's always these explanations to explain a lot of that stuff that people give, and they're different. There's a lot of different explanations, and some of them are based on denominations and things like that. But a lot of the questions that come up was like, why does the Bible advocate for genocide? Like, why in the Old Testament are the Israelites told to commit genocide against the Canaanites, and then they're punished and their country comes to an end because, and that's the reason they're given at the end? You guys did not follow through with the genocide, and you let their influence come in on you, and you didn't follow our religion purely, so that brought about our destruction. Like, it's just really strange. So you ask these questions, and there's these ways to say, well, this is, you know, I mean, you know, it always starts with that whole, we're not supposed to understand everything, you know, and then they give the best explanation they can give. I became interested in this one explanation that seems wild to a lot of, like, you know, just your normal American Protestant or something, but I think is a really interesting explanation. But according to some Gnostic sects, the Old Testament God is not God. It's not the real God. It's this other being, the Demiurge. It's not quite like what God is, but it's not quite like Satan either. It's under these circumstances where it thought it was the only thing that existed, and it's the one that started creating all the material world. You know, the spiritual world already existed, but this thing brought the material world into being, and that's why it's that thing's fault. That why the material world's imperfect, and it was that thing that was having all that influence back then. But now we know better, and we have this path to the true God through Jesus. You know, I just thought that was like really interesting way to explain it. You know, and in some ways like simpler, and you know, I guess if you're really like spiritual and religious, it might make more sense to a lot of people than some of the other explanations. You know, just the whole, you know, well, you're just supposed to be okay with that because we're not supposed to know, you know, kind of thing. It just led to this song, and the song's really kind of like, it's not really like a spiteful song and stuff, but like, I mean, I'm critical of religion and stuff. And I'm critical of these depictions of, you know, our supposed creator and stuff, because some of them just make them out to be awful, and people go like, oh, that's good. And it's like, oh yeah, but what about that time in the Bible where he, you know, let the devil torture his most dedicated follower and kill his family and all his, you know, ruin all his belongings and afflict him with horrible diseases and stuff? Like, I'd like to think that the, you know, whatever created me wouldn't use me as like a pawn in a bet like that. You know? So yeah, I mean, it's a critical song, you know. What it is, I don't mean to be like spiteful or whatever. It's just like, you know, I want people to think about that. You know, like if you have a religion and follow it, you should know all about it and be a real student of it, so you can really like think about it in depth. You know, and I think, you know, in some religions it seems like it's a lot more acceptable to question things like that. And then in other ones, it's just like, no, you're not supposed to do that at all. Don't question it that, you know, you're messing up who you are. I'm somebody that would like to think more deeply about things and come to my own conclusions and all that. And that's just kind of what that song is. It's just like a release of some of that kind of thing. Yeah. You know, I might have made it sound like it's going to be more in depth and kind of like scholarly and nerdy than it really is. But it's pretty easy to understand type song, you know. Yeah. But, yeah, I was just really interested in you know, in all those things. Just eventually led up to that being one of the things I was interested in writing about. And then it also gave me, I don't know, I was wanting to break with my normal music styles too. And I think the topic was good for a song that was going to do that. Yeah, and it's got some like sort of, I guess describe it as like sort of Spanish guitar in it, and it's a little more moody and I don't know, jangly, sort of. I don't know how to describe it. I've always liked Eastern sound of music. Yeah, you know? I've always liked, and I've recently started listening to a little more of it. Not a whole lot, but enough that it helped motivate the sounds for this song. There's a band called, I may be pronouncing it wrong, but I think it's TNR1 or something like that. And I don't know exactly where they're from. I want to say like maybe Saudi Arabia or somewhere like that. But man, if you see the video, it's even more amazing because these guys are all like playing guitars like wildly, like in a way we wouldn't play them.
Yeah.
Like you know how the whole thing where a left-handed person, if they can't find a left-handed guitar, they just string the right-handed one backwards and all. It's like that kind of thing's going on, except I don't think anybody's left-handed and stuff. They're just like, it's just like almost like they found these instruments and learned all to play it on their own, you know, without any outside influence or something. You know, and it's very like, I hate the term world music. I just think it's like condescending to music in a way. You know what I mean? But I mean, it has that vibe to it, you know. So I got interested in that a little bit. And then some of the like Spanish gypsy music and you know, those guitar styles. And it's like a lot of people associate it with Spanish music, but it also has this deeper like lineage. It goes back to probably India and stuff. And then, you know, Indian music has been pervasive in our music over here. You know, like the Beatles had, you know, the influence. A lot of other bands. You know, you'll hear that sitar from time to time, or you know, or just things that just kind of, you know, similar riffs to what you might hear in Indian music. You know, and I just want to do something like that. And I've always fooled around with some sounds like that, but never made it onto any of my recorded things. But I just figured it was time, you know, and the chords I had for the song in the beginning already fit that kind of thing. So I just like ran with it, but I had to actually study a little bit for it to not sound like just some silly unlearned guy messing around. It probably still sounds like that to a certain extent, but I learned a few things on this one, you know. And had a good time doing something different. There's some electric guitar on there, but it's mostly acoustics, as you know. I don't normally do that. I don't enjoy playing acoustic guitars very much. I think mainly because you know, I hadn't done it much. I'm not that good at it, you know. And I always see somebody that's really great at it, and it makes me jealous because it sounds so good. And I pick one up and it doesn't sound that good, but you know, I feel like I managed on this one. You know, so I'm pretty proud of it, you know. And
that's like me when I pick up an acoustic guitar. I'm usually trying to play punk rock on it, so it's not going to sound that good.
When I do, that actually sounds better than when I try to, you know, play more frilly things.
I mean, if I played actual chords, it might sound a little better. But
I had a little bit of help on this one too. Cap from Fill-Ins, he would write me now and again and say, you know, if you're doing any recording or anything, I'd like to come learn. I'd like to come learn this. And he's also wanting, you know, to make himself known as a session guy, so he's eager to play on something, you know. And he played on the Cheap Trick tribute stuff we did with Tankified. Had the idea of having him along, because usually one of, you know, me, Steve, or Barry would play bass on any given song, and for this we're just like, let's just have a full band this time, you know. And you know, his name came up right away. So drafted him in to do that. So working on him with this, I already knew how good he was to work with, and he come in and man, his contribution to it, like what he played on it is, you know, compared to all the other tracks I recorded, it's probably like 10% of it, but it probably had the biggest impact and the vibe of it, you know. It really made a big difference. And having him around the day he was here helped me make some decisions on some other things. There's some extra percussion like shakers and tambourines. And I knew I wanted them in there, but I had no idea how it's supposed to go. And I just put him in front of the microphone and said, do whatever you think sounds right, you know. And just a couple passes, you know, the first passes on things like that where you're experimenting the whole time is like, you know, you don't get anything done really, but except I picked out several things I heard him do, and those become the parts. And it was just things he did on the fly. So he helped round that song out nicely. It was really good to work with him, and I recommend that if he extends his, you know, an offer out, whoever you are, if he extends an offer out to you, have him along at least one time. It's worth it. He's good. He's
a good guy. I'll be talking to him probably next weekend too. So, because he's got something coming out soon that he wants to try to promote.
I think he has more going on than we think. You know. I think a lot of people have taken him. They realize that talent he has and taking him up on it. He might be working on me with this next one, but I got another song in the works already. Yeah. I'm not going to talk about it a lot. I'll keep it mysterious for a while. That one could steer me as well. It could be a lot different by the time it sees the light of day, but
yeah.
I kind of talked to him a little bit about that one too, but I think my ideas are coming to me so quick. He might not be as big a part of this one. Even if he just comes on and helps run the machine for me while I record, that'd be fine.
Yeah,
that would be totally worth it. But yeah, I don't know much else to say about that song. But it's by the time you hear this podcast, it'll be out. The Demiurge, Prehistoric Jon, the Demiurge. I'm gonna have it exclusively on Bandcamp, and you can find it on my Facebook page.
PrehistoricJon.bandcamp.com, right?
Yeah, I think it's PrehistoricJon.bandcamp.com. No special characters or anything in there, just spelled straight out.
Yeah.
I don't remember what else I was going to say about that, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm at the point in where I've worked on it so long and hard. I'm kind of tired of hearing it, so I'm really eager to see what kind of reactions it gets. You know what I mean? That's going to be the new. In time, I'll be able to look back and say whether I thought I did great on that. It was a great song or not. Regardless of how I feel right now, but that initial reaction you get from people is always a rush.
I thought it was really cool, and I listened to it like 4 or 5 times in a row just because, like I told you, I was switching my speakers, just listening to it on different speakers to make sure everything sounded good, and I dug it. It was good.
That's good to hear, man. It's really hard when you do so much on your own. You get like, you go through a lot of stuff. There's a friend of mine online that he studied to be a recording engineer, and he kind of quit doing it. He said it was just like, felt like the whole process was a mind game all the time. Like, does this sound good? Does that sound bad? Does this, and it really is. You have to find out what the pitfalls are typically, and I think for everybody it's different. It is such a mind game. Sometimes you'll sit down and listen to your mix or whatever, it sounds awesome, and the next time you listen to it, it sounds bad. But the time it sounded bad, maybe you just heard it too much too often.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound bad. You're just sick of it. You just have to find out where all those lines and boundaries are, and like just operate within that landscape. And it's hard for people to figure. It's so hard to do things on your own. Like when you're like seeing a project through from start to finish, you're the only one.
Yeah.
Unless you kind of like try to make note of things you gain through those experiences, you'll repeat the same really bad habits and things, and it's really hard. It's hard on your own. It's so much better working with a team, really.
Mm.
You got to do what you got to do. If you got to work on your own, work on your own, doing every bit of it's way better than not doing anything because you ain't got anybody to get up with right now, or it's, in this case, not safe to get up with people or whatever, Man, going back in time a little bit, Menhir, that was a song that I wrote during like Warboys years.
Yeah.
But I tried to show it to them at practice, and I didn't think it was right even when I showed it to them, but they didn't seem to pick up on it, so I never pushed it. So that one got shelved. So that one that was a big release to do as well.
Yeah.
And that song's so funny to me because it sounds really serious, but it's kind of almost a silly song. I based it off of one of the earliest episodes of Unsolved Mysteries, the original run.
Okay, yeah.
There's an episode where there's this family, and it's a close-knit family, and they're kind to each other, and they have a good family life, but they're not doing well monetarily. Mm-hmm. They're always struggling and stuff. And then the son finds a rock in the woods. They're supposed to be like in the Pacific Northwest somewhere, and he finds a rock in the woods. It's kind of like half buried, right next to the riverside, and it's got engravings on it.
Yeah.
Like hieroglyphs or something, and eventually the parents make it down there to see it, and then the family claimed that all of their luck totally turned around after they encountered this stone.
Okay.
Their financial situation changed. They were able to move into a bigger house. They were generally happy. Like, you know what I mean? Those struggles they had were alleviated, and they just like, for some, I guess like they just wanted to put some of the credit with the rock or whatever, because it just, to them, it was just a weird happenstance that they find such a strange thing. And then their fortune totally changes, I mean, they didn't like become wildly rich or anything. It's like, it's just that their situation in life vastly improved,
Yeah.
So I just thought that was interesting. It sounded like an uplifting thing, and everybody wants that. Everybody wants a little lucky charm or a magic fix to something, something to just come away and wipe out their problems, So I was like, man, a song about that would be awesome.
Yeah.
So that's where that one came from. also working on my own right now. I don't feel like anybody's breathing down my neck to get something done, so I can take my time with lyrics and things, and I like that too. And man, I want to stress though again, I'm not trying to make it sound like doing the solo thing is better than working with a band. Working with a band is so much better. It's so much more fun. And you know, when all that responsibility gets split several ways, it's so much more relaxing too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just really happy and fortunate that I've not had to quit doing music altogether just because it's dangerous for me to get up with people. Can't stress that enough, man. It's like saving my mind right now. I would really be having a rough time about any of that to look forward to. And despite it, sometimes I'm just like, man, I have nothing to look forward to.
Yeah.
Like, can't go anywhere Friday night. Nothing's happening Saturday. Like, you know, like, COVID's on everybody's ass right now. It's everywhere, it seems.
Well, I understand that. Like, last night, our friend James was going to be playing at a coffee shop in Kings Mountain, and Ben was going to play drums with him. I kind of wanted to go see that. Of course, after I found out last night, I'm definitely not going. But I'd already pretty much decided I wasn't going. I'm just like, it's just not worth it, you know? I mean, I'm not going to say anything about anybody playing a show right now. If you feel like it's socially distanced and everything, whatever. But just for me, I've just decided it's just not worth it. So as much as I'd like to go do those kind of things, I'm not doing them.
Man, I haven't been to Charlotte since February.
Yeah.
I mean, I have family there. That's my wife's family's there, you know? I mean, that's my second home in a lot of ways. I mean, I'm living back where I'm from, more or less, you know, but spent 5 years there, and then I lived in Concord for a couple years, which was almost like living in Charlotte, you know, just right next door, basically. And, you know, my wife's family's there, and I ain't been in since February. Like, I'm really damn homesick for it, you know, and homesick for them places I used to play. Like, I would love just to be sitting inside, you know, any of them places I used to play right now, even if I wasn't playing, just sitting in there drinking a beer. You know, it would be like a big relief, you know. I don't know. I think when the time comes, it's totally safe to do that, or at least, you know, safe enough that, like, it's very reasonable for most of us to get out there and do it again. Like, it's gonna feel like a, I don't know, big release. It's going to feel great.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, it's coming. You know, that's what I've been trying to stress too, man. It's like pandemic, like this, if you look at this kind of thing historically, it's like a 2-year setback.
Yeah.
And that's like, you know, we're saying the last big one that affected the United States was 1918 or whatever. You know what I mean? It's been 100 years. So a lot's happened in 100 years. This, by the time it's all said and done, as painful as it has been, will probably be over with, or, you know, things will get back to being somewhat normal or a lot quicker than that one. Yeah. You know, even if it's 6 months quicker or something. But it just seems like if you look back at history, these things take about 2 years to work themselves out, you know, or for, you know. And I know this one's unique. It's not the same as, you know, no two outbreaks like this are the same, but we'll get back to it. And then the vaccine stuff is seeming promising, you know, and I know there's a bunch of yahoos out there that are against the vaccines for whatever reason, but it's going to be fine. Enough of us are going to take it and stuff. We'll be good. We'll get back to normal eventually.
Yeah.
And we'll find that, you know, people find out it was a big disruption. It sucked, but 2 years or so, that's not the worst. Like, it could have been it could have been a war that lasts a lifetime. Yeah. You know, there's some people, human beings that have born and died, lived a whole lifetime under war conditions and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, that's true. It's like it's so goddamn angry at these people won't just put a cloth mask over their face. It really helps. It really helps a lot. I know it ain't perfect. Nobody's claiming it's perfect, but it cuts down on transmission a shitload the more people do it. Like, the more just do it. It's not that hard a thing. Man, I've had to talk to people who are like, I can't wear that mask. I can't breathe. I'm like, look, man, I was in the Philippines in like 110-degree weather with long sleeves and long pants and boots and 100 pounds of gear and a rifle and stuff and a radio and a goddamn gas mask on. Like, don't talk to me about what's uncomfortable. You can't breathe.
Yeah.
Or something like this is nothing, man. I mean,
they're not fun to wear, but it's not. I mean, once you wear them for a little while, like, there's some days I just kind of forget. I kind of forget I even have it on. I'll be in the car halfway home. I'm like, oh yeah, I can take my mask off.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like it either.
That's just a fucking childish attitude to have about it, honestly. I can't
It's
breathe.
weak as hell. It's weak as hell. I mean, I know there's some people got issues, you know. There's. I'm not talking about them. I'm just talking about the people who are just resistant for their own little selfish reason, or they're just such a little.
And half of those will say that they have issues
person.
too. Half of those people will say they have issues too, and that's just fucking bullshit. That's
Yeah,
like somebody
they do.
carrying. That's like somebody carrying a service dog that doesn't need a service dog. You know.
Man, listen, this leads me into another story, man. This is awesome. This has got to be told on this podcast. Neither of us had any clue until recently. But back in 2002, October 2002, Levi from No Anger Control and me were in the Philippines together at the same time.
Oh, yeah,
in the Marines, in the same damn unit. We just didn't know each other back then. And then we never knew until... And I forget how that happened. I think he posted a picture from when we were there.
Yeah, I
And
saw.
I was
I saw
just
that.
like, hold on, man. Yeah, it's nuts. Totally insane.
Friday night, time to drink. Dress up, man. What do you think? All damn week been shoveling shit. If you're looking for me, I'll be in the pit. We're at a party, so raise them ears. Cheers to our old friend, been here for years. We're at a party, so raise them ears. Cheers to our new friends, we're glad you're here.
It's crazy. It's like it shows what a small world it is. I mean, I run into that kind of stuff a lot, where it's like, oh man, small world. But that really is right there. That's pretty crazy because he didn't even live. You know, you guys lived in different parts of the country at the time, ended up in the same place, and now have again ended up in the same place.
Yeah, it's just nuts, man. I mean, the world really is kind of small, especially nowadays.
You guys were both in the Marines, and now and in the same unit, and now in the same music scene. Just
Yeah,
worlds
it's
apart,
nuts,
but
man.
worlds together. That's crazy.
When you're in, I think this is a thing in the Navy too, but in the Marines you have this thing called a challenge coin.
Mhm.
You know, if some fucker's bragging about what unit he's in and all that stuff, you can be like, well, let's see your coin, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, if they come up with it, you're just like, oh, okay. If they don't, you're just like, well, how do I know what you're saying is so? You know, whatever. You know, I mean, it's just kind of an old little tradition, you know.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
there's rules like if you got yours and the other person don't, under any circumstances, if you just challenge somebody with it, hey man, you got your unit coin on you? Ooh, they're supposed to owe you a beer or something, you know.
Yeah.
But that's what's funny. That's what me. I don't remember if I did it first or him. I think I did it first. It's like mine's on the shelf over here, really accessible. I was like, hey man, you got this? Showed it on the internet.
Yeah.
Bam, he had his in a matter of seconds. You know, it was no time at all. Crazy.
One thing I wanted to ask, where did you come up with Prehistoric Jon? And is there a reason that you use that instead of just using your name, or does that have to do with teaching maybe?
When I first started doing this, like coming from like the punk rock background and stuff, like
Yeah.
I don't necessarily, I don't think like this now. I think you could go by your given name and still be punk as hell or whatever,
Yeah.
you know, you know. But at the time, I was like, no, I mean, you don't do that if it's like a, you know, punk or some metal or something or whatever. You know, you got to have a stage name or something. And
Yeah.
you know, like I was saying at the time, I was in Self-Made Monsters, and on their current album at the time, I was in the band Dragging Our Knuckles. They're in the artwork, they're
Yep.
cavemen,
Yeah.
you know. And Eddie would always talk about it was caveman music and all that stuff, you know. So it become like a part of my identity too.
Yeah.
So when it come time to come up with some name, I was just like, that'll work. Prehistoric, you know. And I am. That's one of my other. I was talking about my fascination with history, but I also have like a prehistory fascination too.
Yeah.
Because like everything we know about is from like archaeology or paleontology and stuff, but then there's all this like there's all these clues to like, you know, that maybe the civilization is much older than we have thought, you know.
Yeah.
And that's always interesting, that possibility, you know. And there's a lot of good evidence to back that up. I just thought it was a good name for that reason. You know, I was reading a bunch of stuff like that at the time, you know, things about, you know, prehistoric archaeology, like, you know, just the way people lived before agriculture and things. You know, I just thought about that, you know. Man, I've also had this thought about, like, this is another one of them nerdy history science things, but it's an easy argument to make that where the human race went wrong was when we invented agriculture.
Yeah.
You know, because we went from living right off the land and living within Earth's carrying capacity, being so far below it, you know, just like endless supply of whatever we needed, unless you got into an area that didn't have it. You know what I mean? I mean, there were plenty of pitfalls, and, you know, it was a fight for survival, you know, just living life, you know, but, you know, a lot of hunter-gatherers, too, lived pretty comfortable, and there's a lot of evidence that they had a lot of free time, and it wasn't that hard to get by if they were in the right place and knew their environment, you know, and they say that a lot of our problems, like, you know, a lot of our poor health and wars, poverty, things like that, we didn't have them problems before agriculture.
Yeah.
You know, and then all this specialization of labor and stuff, all before all this advancement. So I've always carried this little bit of a like hybrid fantasy or like bitter thing that, like, you know, man, I could have lived like that and lived a more normal life and been like what humans evolved to be, instead of this whole other like instead I'm like part of this crazy future and all this technology and stuff, you know, half going nuts because the true animal side of me isn't satisfied by making my living a traditional way, you know, hunting and gathering, or, you know, just, I don't know, just those kind of things just made for the, it was a part of my personality at the time. I thought about that stuff a lot, you know.
Yeah.
Man, I try to talk and be humble and not sound snooty and aloof and stuff. But I really just wish a lot more people were interested in what I'm interested in, because I think it can be quite enlightening, you know.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of things everybody needs to know. I think we would be suffering this pandemic so much better if people were more learned about science and history. I think we would all be in a lot better shape.
Yeah.
People on the whole would be a lot more cautious, but also people on the whole probably a little less fearful and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't want to get off that acting like I'm behind the pulpit or something, you know. But, you know, I mean, just kind of thoughts you have, especially, man, this is a thought-provoking time, too.
Yeah.
So it's like hard to stay off them kind of. But yeah, man, that's where the name come from. The whole rock and roll side and Eddie's influence and the Self-Made Monsters influence, and then the things I was interested in studying at the time just led to that name.
Well, I know you talk about how that was like kind of a punk rock thing. When we first started our first punk rock band, the Style and Johnny Appleseeds, me and my friend Matt were like, well, you got to have a punk name. We can't just be Michael Phillips and Matt Welburn. We gotta have punk names. So he became Matt Butt, and I was Michael Oatmeal. I don't know why either one of us chose those things, but we did. I guess because the last part of the name sort of resembled the last part of our first names, maybe, but whatever. And then our drummer was Greg Legg, and the guitar player was Brad Flagg. So we all had a punk rock name, just totally made up. But it was like it was better than Michael Phillips.
Listen, man, I'm serious. One of my biggest regrets in music is that I didn't go with a pseudonym from the start. She just made up something.
Yeah.
But I didn't have that foresight. Like when I was young and first got into music, I was just like, I want everybody to know who the fuck I am. You know, I want all credit for what I do, and I want to be famous, and I want everybody to love me. You know, nowadays I'm just like, man, I'd love to like live this double life where I'm a normal dude, but then when I do the music thing, I'm some other asshole that doesn't have to answer for any of the stupid shit he says or does, you know, or whatever, or any music he's not proud of after the fact, you know, or something, like whatever. But I mean, I don't. At the same time, I don't care, you know. I don't say or do anything that I'm not sure about, you know, and stuff. I mean, I make mistakes when I'm just off the cuff like people do, but you know, as far as like art that I put out there, I'm very thoughtful about that and thought out, you know.
Yeah. We had the foresight to do it, I guess. We just didn't have the foresight to keep it going, or I didn't.
Yeah, but I wish I'd used one. Man, now, there's some projects I did where I was just like, man, maybe I'll use my pseudonym on this.
Like Brave Goat.
Yeah, and you know, sometimes I went back and forth, like how I felt about it, you know, and stuff. And, you know, sometimes I'm just like, well, you know, the pseudonyms are just cooler. There's just a lot of different reasons for that. But I just do kind of wish I'd have just come up with a fake name, you know, not even like, it doesn't even have to be like a, you know, Johnny Dangerous or some shit, you know, just like, you know, just come up with a different name. Just change my last name or do something, you know. I'm talking all about how great Instagram is and how much of a good time I have on there, nice people I meet and all that stuff, but when I share my music on Facebook, it gets a much bigger response than Instagram does, by far. I just like Instagram because someone's like, I mean, at least my experience on there, I don't, that's the thing about these sites. Not everybody's experience is the same, but my experience on that site it's like an insiders group for artists and creative people,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I talk to them and I learn things about their, whatever medium they're working in and things, and it kind of informs my things that I do, music and the album art covers and
Mm-hmm.
stuff, you know, flyers, you know. That's what got me started on any of the visual art. I was doing none of that for the longest time, but when we were still doing shows, stuff pre-COVID and stuff, Jordan's eyesight was getting bad and stuff. And sometimes he just didn't have time.
Mm-hmm.
And I started making the flyers then. You know, he had been making them all leading up to that. I learned a lot of what I know about all that stuff from people off there, you know.
Yeah.
I meet interesting people. I was going to say this about Instagram too. I've met a lot of friends from outside the United States, and some of them become fans of my band, but they don't order stuff. And I realized that the shipping's expensive, and that makes the cost higher. But some of these countries too, they have to pay like fees and things to bring things from outside the country in. It's even more expensive. So when I found that out recently, like I sent some people some stuff for free that I thought would probably have ordered things if it wasn't so damn expensive. So I just was like, hey, tell me your address. I'm going to send you some stuff. You know, I did that to a big handful of people, and I sent a bunch of stuff overseas and stuff. And that's another way I've decided to promote the band, you know. I mean, I would like to make a lot of money and all this shit, and I'd like to, like, run my stuff like a business, but right now, I can't.
Yeah.
And it ain't like I was making no living off of it. Me and my bandmates were not making any kind of living off of it in the first place, you know, so this is another thing I'm doing to keep it alive, but it's been totally worth it. You know, all the people I send stuff to, they'll spread the word. They'll share what I send them online. They'll take nice pictures of it, and it's just awesome, man. You know, you gave somebody. So I love giving gifts, and people love getting gifts, and then it's just cool when you can see that they're happy about it enough to take the time, take a picture of it, and put it online, and say some nice stuff about it, and tell other people to listen to. You know, and it's just I love that about it.
Yeah.
I just don't get that. I don't get that same experience on Facebook. On Facebook, I just feel like every experience is almost awkward as shit. It's like things are not like this in person. And one of the best times that I had hanging out online was with Devin from Cocknews, Commander PP.
Yeah.
He's passed now, but man, I had such a good time hanging. But me and his hanging out would revolve around YouTube videos, and we just like, man, too bad like you can't just hang out on YouTube like this. We were both like, yeah, we'd be off Facebook so fast. You know, that was some good. Man, that guy Eddie Ford from Self-Made Monsters is pretty good friends with him. I mean, not to mention Anti-Scene. That's how we know him in the first place.
Yeah. Them
being friends in the first place. But, man, that guy told me about so many good bands and I never would have heard of. Ever. Just good, really great stuff. And old, like, lost classic rock stuff that, I don't know, you know, it's out there on YouTube now, but, like, you know, and they were, like, probably stuff that had 1,000 or less copies ever.
Yeah.
And now it exists on YouTube, you know, because maybe one person from the band back in 1971 or whatever, you know, kept up with the stuff and then put it on YouTube in like the early 2000s or something, and now it's out there again. Some of the things have seen re-release, I think, and you know, but man, that guy, he always had great suggestions. The one that always sticks out is a band called Soggy from France. The song's called Waiting on the War. Really good, man. When he showed me that, I was like, dude, this kicks ass. This is so damn good.
I don't know how much more you got to talk about, if you got anything else. I've been recording for an hour and 41 minutes. I normally would record longer. If you were here in person, we'd record longer. But I'm kind of thinking, if I want to release this week, you know, this might be enough to work with.
Man, I don't care if you keep it real short and trim it all down to music. I really don't, man. Like I say, man, when I come on and talk to you on these things, I know part of it's for the show, but then I just get lost in just talking to you because we're friends. And
that's kind of how I feel about it too. Like we just end up talking about some stuff, and I think there is some of it I'll cut down for sure, but I'll get it all edited up this week. And like I said, if you want to release it Friday, you can release it, and I'll release the episode sometime Friday too.
And that'd be fine with me. I just don't think it'll change things for me one way or the other. It could be Friday or whenever, and I think the reaction will be more or less the same.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, even if you release at the same time that Cap released his, it wouldn't. I don't think it would matter too much. But I'm always kind of like all for sort of staying out of the way of somebody else when they're releasing something.
Yeah, man. Like with my reach with my music, it's not like I got all these, people that are like strangers for the most part waiting on it to drop or whatever. Man, most of the people are going to listen to me and stuff. I've connected with them in some way, even if it's just the most loose connection ever, and that's where I get my listens and appreciation from. It's not like I've got, a big following or nothing. So I don't think it'll matter one way or another for me. I know if you have a big following like that, and a lot of people that are waiting and stuff, right when you come off with something really matters. But I think for me and the kind of little fan base I got going, it don't matter one way or the other.
Yeah.
I'll have the same impact regardless. They'll check it out when they see it on my page. That's about how I do things, but I don't just do things recklessly. I just really kind of don't know how to do promotion right on the internet. I know there's all these things, and you read all these advice things about how to do it, and I don't know. It just don't register well with me. I just, I don't know. It's hard to have all that energy to do that business side of stuff, and it's the creative side you care about.
And when it don't matter what you do, Facebook's always, or whatever platform you're using, they're always sort of fighting against you because they want you to pay to promote your shit. And then even if you pay for it, it's such a limited reach anyway. It's almost like, why did I pay for that? But they want you to pay for shit, so they're not going to let you do too much with your just regular promotion anyway. So you can try to work the algorithm all you want to, unless you're putting money in Facebook's pocket or Instagram's pocket, which is Facebook again, or whoever, to pay for those sponsored ads. You're kind of chasing your own tail still.
Yeah, it's true. But man, I was trying to think if there's anything else interesting to talk about. I did have a couple of notes on my phone, but I don't know. I think I about covered it all.
Yeah, I was going to make a bunch of notes about stuff I wanted to talk about, and I didn't. And now I'm like, I thought I was going to talk more about the podcast, but I can't really think of anything. The only thing you go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, if you want to cut this thing pretty short and just cut out all the shit we talked about and just focus on the music and make it one of them like shorter bonus episodes you do, that might be better. Well, it's like I said, you know each other, so we talked. I can't remember what I've told you, what I haven't told you, what I told you on the show, what I told you off the show.
Yeah.
So we can just keep it down to business if you want to. And I'm a terrible spokesperson for myself.
I figure this one will probably end up being around an hour. I mean, it won't be like an hour and a half or 2 hours long. It'll be around an hour. And we'll talk mostly about that. I'll leave the stuff in where I talk about the podcast a little bit. And I do have one more thing I was going to sort of talk about that I've already figured out how I'll tie into it. But it'll be about an hour, and it'll have some music in it. It'll have the song at the end, and that'll be good because I have 2 episodes coming out this week. I haven't started editing the first one. I was going to start it last night, but after I got that news last night, I was like, fuck, I just didn't feel like it. And
dude, I felt so bad for you, man.
And I was going to get up today, and I was like, okay, well, if I get up in time to do it a little bit before we record the podcast, I can edit a little bit then, and then I'll edit afterwards. And then I got up just with that headache, and it was like, God damn it. It's like everything's working against me this weekend. So I'll be editing that one over the next couple of nights. I'll start tonight. Wednesday and Thursday, I'll have time to edit this one. So I'll get it all edited down. But that is one thing I was going to say. So I do. Sometimes people might listen to the podcast and hear a lot of this because I leave a lot of background stuff in. A lot of when I first start the call up and we're having technical difficulties, and when sometimes when we're getting ready to take a break, and I leave all this stuff in that sounds like, oh man, why wouldn't he cut that shit out? The podcast is still very heavily edited. It's just I leave that stuff in on purpose because I think it gives a little bit more. It makes it seem a little bit more personal, and maybe I don't know. That might be a weird way of putting it. It gives people some insight into the podcast. And so it's
Yeah.
like, I like leaving in the bumps and the warts and stuff like this is the stuff that they would have cut out if this was on TV. But yet I do cut out a lot of other stuff. And that's just shown with all the extra stuff that I end up putting online with some of these episodes.
It's kind of informative to other people that want to do it as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think when you listen to a really well-produced radio show or something, you're like, oh, they never have trouble, or they do, you know what I mean? But, you know, I don't know. It's part of the DIY thing, man. A lot of people get really discouraged when things don't go really easy.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't go their way right away. I think it's important for people to know that when you're making art of any type, you're going to hit bumps and snags and all that stuff, and it's just part of the process, you know. But some of them accidents that occur are going to be happy accidents. They're going to make your stuff better.
Oh yeah, I've
Gonna
run
prompt
into
an idea you'd have never had just sitting there trying, you know, racking your brain.
There's been times like the Brandy and the Butcher episode when we were having so many problems with it at the beginning. I was like, while I was sitting there interviewing him, I thought, oh, I can use this to my advantage. I can use this. This will actually work really well for the story. And it made it, I thought it made it kind of fun. I mean, it was a little bit like at the beginning, people might have been like, what the fuck's going on? He's having all these audio problems. But then once it's addressed and the way I work it in, it actually works out really well. You know, I take it and I build the story with that in mind. And I'm like, you know, like you said, it kind of shows people that DIY, everything's not perfect. Everything doesn't go always as planned. And I could cut it all out and make it sound professional and like that shit never happened. But I kind of like the fact that shit happens because that's a part of the story. That's what I like about our stories is that it's not always the good stuff that happens. It's sometimes we talk about the bad shit that happens.
Well, man, I want people to know that a lot of times when I get music done, I've done it by the skin of my damn teeth, really. Like,
Yeah.
I don't have all the time in the world to do this stuff, and I have all kinds of responsibilities like anybody else. Like, you know, so if you hear one of my records and something seems a little off, or you know, or you're like, whoa, why does that sound that way? Or something, it's like, you know, I'm doing these things when I can, and some things are very purposeful, and some things are haphazard, and you got to work within the time period I got, and the tools I got, and the budget, you know, which my budget is always the same, and that's do it as cheaply as possible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's no budget. It's all, you know.
Well, I would
I've
say
got some decent gear, but nothing's top of the line except for like my computer's really nice. You know,
yeah. Well, I would
the brain
say
of it all.
like to that, like I don't think there's a single Van Huskins recording out there that doesn't have at least a couple of mistakes in it, and some of them are pretty glaring. But you know, it's like we realize that what we're working with, the time we're working with, the everything else. It's like, you know, we're gonna let some of the warts show because it's punk rock. And then, of course, if we had more money and more time and all that stuff, we'd fix all that stuff. But whatever, you know, it gives it a little bit of character, I think.
Well, some things nowadays are so like over. I don't know. Every little hair is combed in place. You know what I mean? But you listen to a lot of the most appreciated classic records. There's stuff all over them. You know, there's a bunch of Beatles songs with coughs in the middle of them and stuff like that. And you don't focus on that stuff. You know what I mean? Sometimes you do, but you end up liking it. You're just like, man, I can't believe they left that in there. They figured, well, take was so good, the rest of it ain't gonna get no better than that. We'll just live with the cough, you know, or whatever. Maybe they didn't never notice until after it was printed and out there, and like listen to it on vinyl when it come out. And went, shit, we left the cough in that damn thing, you know, or whatever. But I like hearing anomalies. There's whole websites devoted to Beatles anomalies, and it's all descriptions of like you know, on such and such song, you know, Ringo farts and you hear it bounce off the vinyl on the seat, you know, whatever the hell, you know, just like nothing like that. But you know what I mean? Like it's like sometimes you're just like, damn, how do people hear this? And then you hear it and you're like, damn, that is there, you know. Somebody says something in the middle or something like. Man, a lot of people don't realize it, but on Louie Louie, the drummer screams out "fuck" at one point. It's kind of inaudible, you know. Whatever they say, he dropped a stick or something in the take and just went "fuck." You can hear it.
I'll listen for it
know where to look for it.
Yeah, I'll listen for it next time I listen to that song.
Which is funny because supposedly all the people that gave Louie Louie a hard time over analyzing the lyrics and getting them wrong and thinking it was about a bunch of dirty stuff totally missed that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that story. For anybody that doesn't know that story, you should look it up. The whole like controversy over the Louie Louie lyrics, which were totally clean except for that one anomaly. But like the people who were trying to claim it was a foul song, the lyrics they come up with were really just like because that wasn't the lyrics. It really was like a reflection on those people's
Yeah.
nasty little minds. It's hilarious. I mean, it's like the whole story is that the main assumption is that they assume because they were kind of unintelligible, they must be bad. You must be hiding something. You're not enunciating clearly.
Son of chaos, lord of the blind, who gazes down from way on high. The Demiurge, the Demiurge, the Demiurge. Malevolence he inculcates and hates the things that he creates. The Demiurge, the Demiurge, the Demiurge. Lamenting souls cry out in vain and beg him save us from the fate he makes. The Demiurge, the Demiurge, the Demiurge. Remember, faith alone will not suffice. Grace demands a sacrifice. The Demiurge, the Demiurge, the Demiurge.
I had an idea before I decided to come back with the Prehistoric Jon thing. I had an idea of something to do to hold me over. It was totally stupid. And what I was going to do was I was going to do parodies, like Weird Al or something.
Yeah.
But I was going to do it like, this is how I was going to pull it off real cheap. I was going to find karaoke versions of the song I was parodying and then just do the parody lyrics over the karaoke version.
Yeah.
And I wrote two songs. One was a parody of "Addicted to Love" by Robert Palmer.
Yeah.
And it was "Addicted to Snuff" about dipping.
Okay.
And then the other one was I changed Mexico by James Taylor to Texaco, and it's all about like people that hang out at convenience stores all the time. Everybody knows, all them.
Yeah.
And Addicted to Snuff was stupid as shit, and then Texaco was pretty good, but I realized after both of those, like writing them, I was just like, I'm not clever enough for this game, and parodies are just kind of like they wear off real fast. I'm not gonna have the attention span to do like an album's worth of these. But I had an idea. What I wanted to do was record like an album's worth of them and have a record, and then I wanted to have a show prepared. And like that would be the show. Like my computer plays those karaoke versions, and I just do the vocals over it. You know, I was going to make like that. No, that's what my idea. I was going to do a party. I was inspired by the Dolomite movie, the Eddie Murphy, where Eddie Murphy is Dolomite.
Yeah.
That's how he was making his record. You just throw a party, and they'd do the songs and the skits in front of all the people. So you had all the people laughing. So you had the laugh track. That's how I wanted to make the record. I wanted to do that. I was really inspired by that. And that's like the whole thing Blowfly would do and stuff, and all that. And so I was wanting to do that, but I realized that like, you know, I wouldn't have the attention span to do it. That'd be funny to me, and it would be enjoyable and a good release for one or two songs for me. But like, that's just not me. And I'm not. I had some pretty clever stuff in some of them songs, but I'm not. You got to be really clever to like make that a thing. Like it did kind of give me a new appreciation for the people that do those. You know, because parodies like they're just silly. They don't. A lot of parodies are awful. They're not good. Like all the ones that are on the morning radio shows are garbage. But some of them real masters of the craft, you know, your Blowflies and people like that, they, wow. Ridiculous. But Weird Al, you know, Weird Al was a big thing when I was growing up.
Yeah. It was big for me.
A lot of people got into music through him, too, because it made it funny, you know. Like when you're a little kid, you don't understand a lot of things that are in songs.
Yeah.
But you're going to understand lasagna, you know. He sings about lasagna. You know?
Singing about Captain Crunch and Raisin Bran, you know. You're gonna know about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to write these little stupid parodies when I was a kid. And like I wrote one called Talk Baby to Me, which was a parody of Talk Dirty to Me. And it was about basically talking like a baby. And then when some of my parodies were like, they weren't even funny. They were just, it was like well, I'm just changing the lyrics. So this is a story about this person lying and like being in pain. Just like, but there's nothing funny about it. Now I think that's when I realized I got to give this up.
And here in Upper Cleveland County, like when I was growing up, it was almost like there was like a rich tradition of messing. So we used to call it fucking up songs, man. Look at this song I fucked up, you know, and like, that's what we'd call. We knew what parodies were. Some of us knew the word and stuff, but mostly just called it fucking up songs, you know. And then there was, somebody always had something, you know. It wasn't just limited to one or two kids or something. Like everybody was doing it. So whatever song was popular and on the radio, it got a treatment, you know. And it probably got several treatments, you know. So that's just always stuck with me. And man, when I was traveling out on the road, I would meet other people that was into that and would do it a lot.
Yeah.
And one of these guys I met him the first time in Charleston. He was the merch guy for the Dwarves.
Yeah.
And he would go by the name Paul Bearer.
Okay, yeah.
Dude, he is so into that. And sometimes he had some of the funniest ones, man. And it would just knock your socks off. It'd be so fucking funny, man. And I saw him a couple other times after that, and he would do all the ones he had, you know.
Yeah.
He would turn out, have you ever seen the rain into have you ever smoked cocaine and stuff like that. It was just always something, man. He always had one. And sometimes he would have songs that had versions back here, but there was a different version, you know, that he knew.
Yeah.
So it was kind of interesting, but yeah, I just couldn't make an honest go at that. It's just, it's funny to me as a party thing and jokes and in passing, but it wasn't going to make for good entertainment coming from me, really. It was just not in the bigger scope and a record and all, you know.
This has been a Gabba Gabba Hunt media production.
I think if our country had put a bigger emphasis on the importance of education, we wouldn't be complaining about a lot of the things we're complaining about right now. I mean, we'd probably ride out this pandemic a lot better, but there's some countries where education is highly prioritized, and it's not perfect for them either, you know. I mean, it's just human nature to reject things too. Oh, you want me to do this thing? I don't want to do it now.
Yeah.
You've ever heard that thing like within households where somebody's like about to do something and somebody asks them to do it or tells them to do it and they're like, well, I wanted to do it till you told me to.
Yeah, exactly.
They feel like you're bossing me around.
That's what I was getting ready to do. Now you said something about it. No.
It's like I was just getting ready to do that, but you called me a motherfucker for not doing it. So now I don't.
Yep. Oh shit.
Man, I'll finally hush now. Man, I've just been happy to talk to somebody and stuff.